Hello. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Hi. Hi.
How
How
are
you
you?
doing? I'm good. You?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm
Okay.
okay, considering, but I will not go into that.
Oh, yeah, I've got my own considering, so yeah, I know how you feel.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, okay.
Yes.
All right. So
But
it's
yeah,
good to see you.
nice to see
So
you as well. Yeah. You
yeah,
your year been all right despite a few considerings?
yeah. There's a um, turmoil going on. That's like everywhere else, I guess, but a bit more than everywhere else.
Hmm.
Less
Yes.
than some places, but pretty much not acceptable otherwise. But that's the way it is. That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great so. Yeah.
I actually I just saw the episode about an hour ago.
Oh,
It
right.
was
Yeah.
fun to watch. I'd forgotten so much about it.
So you enjoyed seeing it again?
Yeah, yes, I certainly did.
Hmm. Oh, brilliant.
And all the known character actors of the time were in it. I mean, it was like like, you know,
Hmm.
good collection of interesting people who were on the on TV shows
Hmm.
a lot, actually. I only knew Imogen out of that because I mean personally, that is.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think we said last time there's so many great character actors that pop up
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
shows.
yeah, 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 yeah. Bill used to do that thing like that detective thing set in 18 something or something like that with Rupert um not Murdoch, Maigret was called or something like that.
All right. Oh
The-
yeah, yes, the French
yeah, yeah, yeah,
detective
yeah.
thing. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Rupert Davis. Yeah,
Oh yes.
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Mon Maitland, of course, was a famous character actor in all the, you know, movies and TV shows and so on. And
Mhm.
everybody actually, I forgot the guy who played the other baddie with me, and I think I knew him a bit.
Mhm.
Uh, but that was it. It was fun to watch that thing. I'd just plainly forgotten a lot about it, in actual fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I had to watch it just this later earlier today, and yeah, I think it holds up rather well.
yeah.
So I think we're probably ready to make a start. So for those members of the audience that wants to watch the episode while we have our chat, if you just want to get the episode paused on the opening shot of Trafalgar Square, I'll give you a few seconds to
Yeah.
do that, and then we'll press play and we'll start. Um,
Okay.
okay, so right, just get mine ready.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll do a countdown from five, and we'll all press play. So five, four, three, two, one, and play. It's always quite strange when you watch old shots of London and it's so empty. I think that's
Yeah,
always
yeah,
strikes
yeah,
me.
yes.
Um, so this is your first of your saints. So in terms of so this is 1967. People Importance
Good Lord. Yes,
is 68. So it would have been a year sort of in between the
yes,
two.
yes, 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 yes.
So
So
how would you sort of get on to shows like this? I take it your agent would kind of sort of put you up for lots of these things.
I think agent, I had a good one, and then it was. I was television was very regular work for me. Like I mean, it was just kind of like very regular. I was very lucky. It was just constantly 10 years, almost back to back, really.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And so Saint was fun to do because Roy Baker, who directed this, was also directing Emergency Ward 10.
Hmm.
So and I knew him from there. I mean, he was a nice guy. I really liked him,
Hmm.
and easy director. You know, had no problems, no issues. Very confident kind of a guy. And it was Saints were always fun thing to do, really, because the crew was good. Always, and there was a bit of a giggle, and Imogen, of course, was around, and that was just pleasant time, a good time. Just takes me way back, and like it's all nostalgia, and I kind of start missing a lot of that time and period, which was just fabulous. That's it. That's it. Now, after watching that, show and then talking to you, and this, it'll set me off for the rest of the evening, my end, and I'll be gone, man. I mean, I'll be just kind of like, my heart will be going and pining for old London and the streets and the shows and my friends and the whole lot, and then it becomes very nostalgic. I mean, it becomes also at some point it becomes very emotional. I mean, it just happens. Like, every time something like that happens, it happens.
Oh yeah.
Either that or some kind of memory or talking to somebody. I talk to a few friends regularly, off and on, once or twice a week, and so on. And it sets me off. I mean, more now than before, in actual fact. I don't know the reason for that, but that's the way it is. And that they're all, even the bad times were good memories. So like it was just work was fun, and studios. I remember so much. I remember it so clearly. When I mean, I've forgotten a lot about this episode. When I saw that everything comes back, so everything is so drastically changed now that it's like you're from another age almost, and things like that. But it's not so. I mean, people. I feel very. What do you? I don't feel left out. I feel like I'm doing stuff right now. I'm finishing a couple of my own things, but I feel I'm right. Not. I'm pretty much. I feel that I'm really on top of it because I've grown with it. I've never been out of sync with how it's moved forward. The technology and the grammar of filmmaking and acting and things. It's just that I'm not there and in it right now. But like the point is that I stay in touch. Well, maybe I might be there. Hopefully this summer some point, and I'm hoping to do a couple of things. And so all of this plays. I've written about it. I've written about that time. I mean, I've got this graphic novel which I'm finishing, and I sketch also, kind of thing, and take photographs and things. But it's sort of like a experiment kind of thing, and so I've got a whole mixture of things in it. It's got little stories, and it's all kind of always going back and forth from my past time. And England at that time is a very important time of my life. It always will be. That's it is. I mean, it's the kind of like the base of my foundation for my work. It was just fabulous, magical.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think you're certainly these shows. I think mean a lot to people. Not only those that saw it originally, but I was a child of the late 80s and 90s, but I was growing up watching repeats of Saint, the Avengers. So to me, it's part of my life as well. Of course, I now, in later years, you realize kind of how long ago these are, but they still seem very, very, still very relevant to a lot of people, probably my generation, because we discovered these shows, on repeats on ITV and
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. How many of those people are around from this show, for instance?
Oh, they're
Like
still around.
on,
Oh, do you mean the cast and crew that's still around? Did you mean?
yeah.
Well, William Gaunt, who is
Yes.
on the screen now, actually still around, but he doesn't do any virtual events. Sadly, I did try and get him, and also Fiona Lewis is still around, but again, not contactable. I think everyone else, unfortunately, is either sort of either passed on or they have just sort of fell off the radar.
Good Lord.
But
Okay. Yeah, sure. But know,
yeah,
Roy Baker was, I don't know how old he was when he was
yeah,
going out.
I think he died about 2011-ish, sort of that
Uh-huh.
kind of. I think a quite had a very long life. I think he must have been close to 90. I think when he went.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so it's always
Yeah,
quite pleasing when you do the research of these things and you see that people did have a nice
yeah.
long life. It's not always, of course, the cases we know with poor imaging. Of course, there's lots of very sad things that you sort of find out when you're researching these events. Oh, as I just mentioned, Imogen, do you have when you saw Imogen in this episode, did it bring back anything particular?
I think that I met her for the first, I've seen her before, but I met her for the first time then
Hmm. Yeah.
in this episode.
Hmm.
And we were good friends. I mean, she was great, a great lady. I mean, and she was very kind of like we were good friends.
Mm.
And so and she was. I think she was quite a remarkable person, actually. I mean, she was like very. I was very shocked when I heard that she had actually gone and the way
Mm.
she went. And
Yeah.
then there was, but what can you do? I mean, I just had, she um, she often gave me very good advice. Always, I remember that
Mm.
very clearly, and
Mm.
she'd go out of her way to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Uh, but it was like, yeah, and I didn't, she's painted up to
Mm.
make her look darker than she was,
Yeah.
and I thought, Jesus, that's when I met Imogen. I had forgotten so much about this episode.
Mm.
I thought there was another one because I did another one. And so that also had something to do with the airline. And then I was um, in an airplane. I think we shot that at Luton Airport.
Hmm.
And the so I thought it was I just saw that and I thought, wow, you know, and I thought, that's Imogen. I mean, I said, is that her? And I like, because I didn't recognize it straight away. And
It's a very different look, isn't
so,
it?
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
very
yeah.
nice look,
I just,
but
yeah, I just watched it an hour ago, just
mm,
an hour before I started.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, but it was, yeah, good times.
Mm.
And I'm actually thinking. I talked to a couple of people who are young people that they're working in the industry there in England, and they're not. I talked to an old friend of mine, my kind of timing. He's an actor, Madha Sharma, and he's done a lot of, he's actor, director. He was married to Jenny Seagrove for a while.
Hmm.
And so and he asked me once, he wrote to me and he said, I mean, do you think that we ought to be able to, you have something in mind that you think that we should do something before our time is up? I said, of course, yeah, sure, and we could do this. But we're kind of talking about it. And a couple of people are engaged in that, and they like the idea that it's just about three, four people, like two ladies and two of us, and we're kind of making something around that period time, the shows we did, and talk about this, that, and the other, see how it works out. And so we're doing a kind of thinking of doing a theater show, and I'm actually thinking of actually doing a little a shorts about the period,
Hmm.
the old days, going to some of the places that are still around, like a few of the pubs and some of the old people and chit chats and short things, and that's what I'm planning on doing. Just I don't
Okay.
want to
Yeah.
lose them. I just want to actually be able to get them recorded somehow or the other.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
feel, that like the it's sometimes it's difficult to describe when you do it and you can actually show it visually, and that's interesting
Hmm.
because it was a great time, really.
Yeah.
And every time is great, but I mean, like there's no bad time because it's hard time. All of the time is this is there. It's
Hmm.
like it or not, you got to make the best of it.
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah.
you know, uh, but uh, yeah.
Hmm. And would you do the theatre show? Would you take it to London, or do you have an idea of where you'd want to do the theatre show?
No, we want to do it in London. I mean, I'm hoping to actually go there this year, and then I'd be kind of like planning and talking about this with a couple of people. So we'll have something worked out uh, before I get there, and then start work on it because I think it'd be interesting show. Try to make it colorful. I mean, I've done. There's a play, a theater show I did about my dad, and I want to do that because I can't do what it needs. It cannot be done here because I did it in the World Performing Arts Festivals with a family company where my brothers run, because I founded this company many years ago
Hmm.
when my dad passed away. But that's how I came back from England to here
Yeah.
in 74, 75. And I was going to be here only for 3 months, but then things started changing and I made a movie that got me into a lot of trouble. I made another movie that got me into more trouble, and back forth and so on.
Yeah.
And but it's a interesting theater show. It's kind of set in Berlin because my dad spent a lot of time in Berlin.
Mhm.
And Weimar Republic. He used to work for Max Reinhardt with him for a very long time, I think 10, 11 years or something like that.
Mhm.
And then so the show is about that. I mean, him, and he's the one of the characters, and it just kind of goes back and forth in time in 1927 Berlin, and uh, 40s India, and then a kind of futuristic landscape in this area somewhere. And it's uh, but the thing is this, things are so changing with such speed. What is change has to happen. But the changing things are that it's you're being told how to think. That's a big complication all of a sudden.
Hmm.
And it's bit sort of like when you're in like uh, in a place like here, it is very different. I mean, it's just come beer in the slammer. But the thing is
Hmm.
that it's like pretty much going on worldwide, and that's very weird.
Hmm.
So, but life goes on, and I am not a believer in doom and gloom. I mean, always look on the positive side. I mean, after you've kind of like, gone through some kind of negative activity, hearing this news and that news and
Hmm.
stuff brings you down for a minute, but you
Hmm.
can't stay down, you know. I
No, I
got a
think
fighting mentality. You get hit, you got to stand up. I mean, stand up
well,
and
yeah, yeah. I think
drum,
got to keep
Otherwise,
going. Yeah.
otherwise you're wasting your time in life. I
Hmm.
just like I don't know. So I don't know how to say, but England is very important. Really, really important to me. I can't even begin to put it in words. I mean, it's just like for me, I had a choice to go to the United States and a good one, a couple of times,
Hmm.
and went there, and I just London and England pulled me back, like a magnet. Like it's just I love the countryside and the home, where I used to stay off and on, and the whole the feel of it. It's just
Mm.
uh, the rhythm and stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot has changed. I mean, a lot has changed, and some things are good, some things are not good, but they will not last. But
Mm.
like, they're just passing things and they do their number and they go away. It always survives. I'm a believer in that sort of thing. And that's it. And it's
Mm.
great fun to see old London and this pace of the shows and the dialogue and the stuff. But they were fun to do, really.
Mm.
You know, I think we all enjoyed doing them.
And as you say, it's a very different sort of pace that you would have, say, to a show. It's more relaxed. It's more dialogue driven.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
so so,
yeah,
so you,
yeah,
you quite like that kind of style of drama.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and because I think it's a very good script as well, and I think that's got really good
yeah.
good characterizations. And of course, it must be quite fun to be playing the villain because, of course, in the People and Porters, it's a swap over. You're both Imogen and yourself are the good
Yeah,
guys. In this one, it's the
yeah,
other way around. Is it more fun to play
yeah,
the
yeah,
bad
yeah,
guy?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always like it was um I wanted to do some more theater because I had possibilities in the theater. I just had some jobs, but television was paying more, and it was just kind of pretty much back to back.
Mm.
And it was just that's it. I was actually liked it more because all of these things were shot on film,
Mm.
and I wanted to make movies, and it was a great learning place for me.
Mm.
And
Did you ever oh,
studio is the biggest film school on the planet. I mean, there's nothing better than that.
yeah. Did
There's
you ever
just
do anything on videotape? Was it all film that you did?
no, it was all film. I mean, other
Oh, okay.
than early shows like Emergency Ward 10, first it was, but when I started, it was going out live.
Mm.
And very shortly after, I think within a month, it was recorded. And then they used to do kind of telecine piece, like they'd go out on location and do something on film, which was 16 millimeter, and then insert it
Yeah.
and videotape and so on.
Mm.
But then I did a couple of BBC films. One of my favorite ones was with Tony Garnett, and Charles Wood wrote this piece called Drums Along the Avon.
Mhm.
And it was with Leonard Rossiter,
Oh yes. Yeah.
and we became great friends. And it was a very good cast in actual fact, and we had great fun doing that show. We did it in Bristol,
Mhm.
and then there was another one. And then I did things like, the beginning of the flagship productions of Thames Television when it started in Teddington, the old studio there. And the series was called Frontier,
Mhm.
about British military based in where I am right now,
Mhm.
in the northwestern frontier of this country, Afghanistan, and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I had a very good part in that, good character. And so that went on. I met Louis Mountbatten there, Lord Louis Mountbatten, because he was
Yeah.
recording his memoirs.
Ah.
And they brought him out to actually meet the cast for the show when we were doing we were shooting a scene on the lot,
Hmm.
and where firing squad was lined up to shoot me. In actual fact, so was the guy I got
Yeah.
court-martialed,
Hmm.
and but it was. You know, and the things were developing very fast, and I was very kind of like, I
Hmm. Uh, And if you're in the audience, can you just post a little message on the chat to see if you can still hear me? I'm not sure who's as. Oh, I think it might be. Sorry, I lost you there for a minute. I'm not sure what happened there.
I don't know.
Hmm.
So that was that, and the best time is going to be. I was I got absorbed here because when I came, I had finished a film called A Private Enterprise,
mhm,
and it was very successful. It was a good film. Director Peter Smith, uh, and it did well, and more than well. I mean, I got very good reviews and whatnot, but I had started actually working on this, putting up a theater workshop together named after my dad. And uh, yeah, can you just turn this off? Please, thanks. And that took me about 2.5 years to do because of the bureaucracy, because of the police state setup, because of this, they can't do this, can't do that. I mean, no, no, no. And I just because if it hadn't got my dad's name involved, I wouldn't have spent a day on it.
yeah.
But it was for him, and I just wanted it something to be there. And then my brothers kind of like made it work and
Mm,
etc. But it took away a lot of time. It
mm,
disconnected me from the flow that I was in,
yeah.
actually.
Mm,
And,
yeah.
that's life, and that's it.
Mm.
Um, um,
We've just seen a lovely scene of you and Roger in the apartment, and there's a little bit of a scuffle that you have. What did you think of seeing that scene?
oh, well, Roger was looked kind of okay, but he was not a fighter.
No, no, he wasn't a fighter, was he? More of a lover than a fighter,
He just
wasn't he?
and but they had uh, some people and stuff, but the action was not very um, actually as good as it is now. I mean, it's very kind of
It's
like
more basic, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But for the time, it was great, and it's still fun to watch. I mean, it's fun to watch. Exactly, and.
Was Roger quite humorous on set? Did you?
Oh, but very. I mean, it was great fun. I mean, he was a very pleasant person,
Hmm,
and uh, twice I had the opportunity of working with him, and it was just he was very funny, and it was very nice, actually, very kind of like um, yeah,
yeah.
and but I was not a big. I got on well with people I just met, and I was not kind of like very out there tagging myself in social circles, like unless I actually I went I got engaged with all the rowdy kind of people, not that I was rowdy, but
Hmm,
somehow or the other they ended up being more interesting. But like and the you know watching movies and yeah.
hmm. There's a nice moment when there's a lot of sort of blue screen driving in this, on the studio. Sort of, is there a knack to sort of picking up, making that believable? Because some actors oversteer and it seems a bit too large. But is that kind of thing quite interesting technically?
Yeah, it's the first time I drove a taxi. In actual fact, I had plainly forgotten I did that in a sense. So I saw the shot and I thought, my gosh. And I just, normally I have a good memory, but I just don't remember that at all, actually, unless I saw this thing again.
Hmm.
And uh the cabs are great fun to drive. I mean,
Hmm.
they're good, they've got a good look.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah. So but it's really interesting to look at yourself that many years ago, and
Mm.
you know, I always think about the other people who are in it, and I just immediately wonder, well, what are they doing? Where are they? Are they around? Are they not around? And then suddenly it becomes to dawn on you that, you know, like people like me, like, you know, I mean, like my age group, I mean, like said, like I reckon we're the last of our generation, the era, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Whenever, I mean, you know, and I do think about it now because I'm kind of like, you know, writing about the few past things, and my graphic novel is like that. It's a very weird novel, but it's interesting. But it is constantly going back and forth in time. Like, you know, it talks about the period that I'm in. I mean, the interesting sketches of studios and strange angles of lenses and
Mm.
characters, um and you know, I just miss that time, and not that, you know, it's back there, but it just need. That's why I'm really very eager to do this piece with my friends,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
Petra Markham is also around. I mean, I did the first job I ever did in England was with Petra. That was a theatre show. It was at the Garrick Theatre.
Oh yeah,
And
I like the calculator.
yeah, and it was the show didn't actually was not successful, but some of the people, the cast was people were really nice, and they did well. But uh, um, and you know, I am very interested in doing that because something will emerge out of this. It can be a good theatrical experience, and
Mm.
a little bit of stuff like memory lane and a bit of nostalgia always works. And you know, nice to have actually people think
Mm.
back. And basically, it's all to do with the business we're in. Actually, what we did back then, and the shows like The Saint and so on and so forth, and other things, and other people name, and something's coming around. You know, I think it'll. I have a good feeling about it. I think it'll just turn into something interesting.
Oh yeah,
Big.
yeah.
Madhu is very interesting in it, and um, uh, and he is done a lot more theater than I have. I mean, you know, I've done about like nine. I've directed 8 plays in the theater altogether.
Mhm.
Uh, Small plays, but I mean, you know, not small plays, very sizable, but you know, not big theater.
Mhm.
And the theater is very magical stuff, and so now. That's where we are at. I mean, you know, like I don't know what else to actually. I don't remember normally I always had a good relationship with the camera crew because I was always very interested in the camera side of the thing. Right? I
Yes.
was always, eh,
Mm.
you know, we had a drink together and stuff like that and talked a great deal about it. And the old BNC Mitchells where you didn't have the viewfinder reflex stuff,
Mm.
and so. Um, and
Well, I
I,
was going to ask about some of the crew on this because you have a gentleman called Alec Mills who was the camera operator who did some of the Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton Bond films and
yeah,
so one of the best
yeah,
sort of camera
yeah,
operators
yeah, yeah.
and no doubt you probably had a chat with him or two at the time.
Yes.
Mm.
Oh, because I used to make a point of that. You know, there was a big dividing line at the time. That now things have changed a great deal.
Mm.
I mean, not now, but years ago. I mean, it changed because, like, you know, there was like in the studio there were the actors and the directors and producers in the studio restaurant and the canteen and the bar was technicians and camera crew and gaffers and other people.
Mm.
So I always preferred to be on the lot with the technicians. I just go have a drink with him. I mean, I didn't drink lunchtime ever. Maybe occasionally something, but I would have milk and they would make fun of me. And they said, "What the hell, you don't drink your milk?" I said, "I'm not going to find some beer lunch break." And so so that was the kind of big dividing line there at the time. Between then and the people then sort of then it's changed. I mean, and by over the years, yeah. Now it's a different ball game, which is good. I mean, people are very kind of like bond together, and they kind of like
more inclusive. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not it's not they don't have a sort of a divider in between, sort of. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And I probably should mention the director of photography on this one, Michael Reed, who did A Majesty's Secret Service, the George Lazenby Bond film, and so you couldn't have had a better person doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I do remember him. I do remember him, but I didn't actually chat a great deal with him.
No.
But it was a very kind of I used to sort of like almost would gate crash into those conversations because it was not normal. I mean, actors would not actually be there all of the, like go into from the restaurant to the studio canteen or the bar and chit chat with the gaffers and the technical crew. It was not a thing that would just didn't happen. They'd like to be there in the restaurant, be actually seen with the producer, director, or other actors that they're there. And I would just do that. I mean, always, because I mean, there was a time to talk and chit chat and things like that, and ask a question or two or something like that. And sometimes people were kind of look at you and say, "What is this young lad asking about?" I mean, I say, "Well, and then some people were very comfortable and easy, and they became friends, like gaffers and things like that. I used to think that these people were actually shooting films. Like I worked with people who actually, the first film I ever saw in my life, I'm told, I remember it vaguely. I just kind of like I think about I was a year old, and I asked my mother one time. I mean, I just my memory is, thank God, it's really I got a good memory. I remember things from way, way, way back. And that was A Thief of Baghdad, Alexander Corder's film with Sabu and John Hall and whatnot. I mean, it was a great movie. I mean, you look at the special effects in that film, wow. I mean, like the thing is just they're really good. And so, and I worked with the guys when I was working for the Boltings. I was working with these guys who had worked on that movie, and I used to think, my gosh, I mean, these are the people who know how to make movies. They've been making films since I was like a teeny bopper. I mean, they've been making films, and they know what it is. So the strange set of circumstances, I was actually John Ho, who was the lead guy in that movie. We did a show together, and I found out that he was living about 3 houses down from my house, like up in Swiss Cottage. So I thought, my gosh, that's just amazing. So things like that are interesting, and I don't know. So I've never lost my actual passion for actually movies, and I've just never lost my kind of childlike fascination for it. I mean, I'm just kind of like the discovery process.
Oh yeah.
That's the way it is. Um, and anyway, but anything else you want to ask me?
Oh
Just
yes. I was going to ask about Fiona Lewis. As we know, she's still around. Do you got a
is
couple of
she
like?
acting?
I think she's retired, but she's still got an agent. So she you know, like a lot of actors, I don't think they necessarily retire. I think the phone stops ringing. It's so they'll always pick up the phone if it goes. But do you remember Fiona at all?
Yeah, I do very well. I mean, but I just I never had any interaction with her
Hmm.
uh, during this film
Okay.
during that episode.
Yeah.
I remember her very well. I mean, I remember the other work she would do, and I
Hmm.
knew who she was. Um, and it's just sadly, I didn't have a great kind of chit chat
Hmm.
with her. So
Yeah.
and it's nice to know she's around.
Oh,
And
yeah.
uh, I kind of admire people who are actually working still, and are ready to go and doing things. And I uh, I'm looking for an agent, new agent. I mean, I got a couple of possibilities. I talked to a couple of friends,
Hmm.
and they said that they're very interested because I was actually offered a couple of things,
Hmm.
but couldn't. They didn't realize I was in Pakistan.
Ah.
They thought I was in England and I just simply fly over to Spain or somewhere where they
Hmm.
were shooting. They offered me this job, so I think I missed something like uh, 3 jobs for sure.
Ah. Right. Yeah. Um.
But I'd like to be able to be in the loop again
Hmm.
and do a couple of things because after all, I mean, that's what it's all about.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. Um.
Yeah.
Yes, you did mention earlier your fellow henchman in the episode. It's David Spencer who plays Attar. You said you remember David Spencer.
Yeah. What did he?
So he along with you as a kind of you're the two henchmen in this episode.
That's
So
right.
yeah.
I actually, David, I remember him as he was, I heard he was a very nice guy. I think we had a good rapport. And, and,
Hmm.
um, and I think we met a couple of, is he around? Is he doing something?
I believe he's no longer with us. I think I'll check in a moment, but yeah, I think he's another one that's sadly gone.
Oh, Jeb Bush.
Um,
Yeah, no, David was, we spent, during the shoot, we spent obviously a lot of time together. It was fun. I mean, David was a nice guy and we kind of had a good rapport and we just, that was it.
hmm.
Um, I knew about him before. I'd seen him in some other things. I know he done good bit of work off and on, and that's it. And
Yeah, David died age 79 in 2013.
Good Lord,
Um,
how old was he?
79. So he was so 2013, he died at the age of 79. Yeah.
Oh,
Uh, so not too bad. Um, I think the other there was one other cast member in this episode that is actually in the People Importers as well. So you cross over, and it is I think who it is now. It's yes, it's Ray Lonan who plays Corporal Buller, who gets shot.
yeah,
He's in the People Importers as well.
yeah,
I think we mentioned him last time that I think you sort of have some vague recollections of him. I think. Um, the other
yeah.
villain in the main villain in the piece and the well, it's just kind of an episode of two halves, isn't it? Because your character sort of disappears along with all the other gang about halfway through the episode, and there is a mention of the Saint saying, "We'll go and arrest them at their hideout," sort of thing. But it would have been quite nice, I think, to have seen your character. You know, it's quite an abrupt, isn't it? How you sort of leave the episode. I think might be a bit of a shame, really.
Um, Maybe I watched it
Mm.
uh, speedily. I just that walk me through the scene once
Oh,
very
well, I was
quick.
going to say that. So the last time we see you and the other villains is when they just steal the Osprey jet, and
Ah,
after that, the story takes us in a completely other direction, doesn't it? So it's sort of it is
yes,
sort
yes,
of,
yes, 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 yes,
you know,
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes,
Um,
yes,
uh,
yes. So uh, that character was he
oh,
supposed
it's
to?
so the main villain is played by Marvin
Mon Maitland.
Matland, yes.
Yeah,
Known to a lot of the audience as probably being in The Man with the Golden Gun, the Roger Moore Bond film. He has a nice
yeah,
little role in that.
yeah.
Do you remember him at all?
Mon Maitland.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, that was the first time we were together in a show.
Hmm,
But of course, no, I did one more thing with him. I don't remember what it was.
hmm,
I don't. But of course, Maan was a sort of famous character actor. He was always kind of like mostly played the nasty Eastern guys,
hmm,
and sometimes a good guy. And he was he'd been gone for a long time in actual fact, and he never looked any different in actual fact. I remember he was in a movie called Bohani Junction, which was shot in Lahore City, where I am right now.
mhm,
And when I was a kid, I was at school at the time, and then I'd seen him in lots of other movies, Mummy and Hammer movies, and I did one Hammer film, and he was not in it. But he was always around, and he looked the same,
hmm.
extraordinary.
Yeah.
He just he just never changed. I mean, when he did The Saint, he'd been gone for a long time. He'd been actually playing those kind of characters since I was a kid at school,
Hmm,
and he looked the same,
yeah.
extraordinary.
Yeah.
So, uh, but
And I suppose the other actor we haven't mentioned that we should is William Gaunt, who of course you did
yeah,
two champions as well. So he would have been. Did you
yeah, yeah,
know
yeah,
him?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I did, but I never had any scenes with him.
Hmm,
There, I know he was in that show, and that was my scene was with Stephen Burkoff and his with the two assassins kind of thing.
hmm. What was
And
Stephen Burkoff like?
yeah, yeah, Stephen Burkoff. I used to know him pretty good at that long time ago.
Hmm,
Sort of interesting character, and he. I think I met him first time on Emergency Ward 10, and then I did a couple of TV shows with him, and Champion was one of them,
hmm.
actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. And then I saw him one day, and he was on close to, I had my little studio up in Covent Garden, Neal's Yard.
Hmm,
And he was just coming in there, and he was just kind of like, just all sort of dressed up in this huge helmet and heaven knows what, and big bike and so on, sort of thing.
hmm,
And I pulled the visor up, and I thought, Jesus, that's Steve. And I said, hey, man, how you doing?
hmm,
So, he kind altered his presence, sort of like thing. You always,
hmm.
uh, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, so another actor I should mention, you don't have any scenes with him, but somebody that does appear an awful lot in The Saint, The Avengers, Persuaders. Well, he did one episode of Persuaders, but also wrote for the Saint and The Avengers. Jeremy Burnham, who is actually on the screen at this moment,
yeah,
who plays the Air Force
yeah,
commander.
yeah, 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 yeah,
So,
yeah.
so it's a nice turn, isn't it? For
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, I mean, I, I'd seen him several many times, like, they were sort of known regular actors,
Hmm,
and but never had the chance to actually
hmm,
have any kind of relationship or interaction with him any time.
Yeah.
So uh, like
Did you have much rehearsal time for things like The Saint?
not really.
No,
No,
no.
no, 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 no. It was a couple of the Saints I did that. One was with Ray, and Ray was a really cool director and not edgy in any way. And Roy was very good, very competent, very cool. So it was no problem. I mean, you just have a simple run through of something
Mm.
while they line up the shot and so on.
Mm.
But it was not much rehearsal time at all, in actual fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think the schedule was pretty tight then, they had to shoot for us then. And everybody was pretty good. I mean, they didn't need much, and so that was it. They did what they had to. And um, the it's fun to watch these things.
Mm.
And
I think this episode is quite must have been quite complex at the time because you've got to fake the whole thing of Roger Moore parachuting down. There's sequences in the jet,
yeah, 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 yeah.
stock
It was
footage
out
and
of the
things.
studio on
Yeah.
location, more location
Mm.
and more action. That was great. I mean, that's the station and everything. And they didn't do much of that. Everything was inside the studio at the
Mm.
time. So like that was good. But yeah.
Of course, a lot on the back lot as well. They had those standing sets of London
Oh
streets and
yeah, yeah,
things.
yeah,
And,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
you
And
know,
what else? I mean, like I don't know. Um, but I just forgot about that. The scenes altogether.
mm.
I when I started looking at the episode, I was driving the cab. I thought,
You drive the cab, and you also are just on the stage, but you drive the same car as well, which I don't
yeah,
think many
yeah, yeah,
people
yeah,
got to do in the show.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that
yeah.
was, you know,
Yeah. No,
um,
I was a good driver always, so I didn't have any problems with that.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and um, part
Um,
time, yes, yes.
mm.
So
So this is, as you say, this is your first Saint, then the People and Porters, and then Vendetta of the Saint in Luton Airport that you mentioned. Were you aware that Vendetta of the Saint was actually it was a two-part story, and it was released theatrically in certain countries, particularly sort of European countries? Were you aware that there'd been a movie of the Saint? So it was just two episodes spliced together, which was quite common in those days.
and no, I missed a lot of the
Oh,
your
so I was
voice.
going to say that your final Saint was Vendetta for the Saint part one. That's
Yeah.
the you something you said shot at Luton Airport.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Uh,
Yes. I think it was Luton Airport because I was in a pilot because I was like wearing. I was on the airline desk,
mhm,
and, one scene was there, and the other scene was in the airplane,
mhm.
and where I had this. I remember a uniform. I don't remember for the life of me what happened in that episode. This is very odd, but um, yeah. But I missed the earlier part of what you said because the words were
Oh,
getting.
I was just saying that because it was a two-part episode, there was a common trend in the 60s to splice two episodes together, release them in the cinema, to certain European countries. So, but I think it was quite surprising to a lot of actors when they find this out because that their contract was for an episode. And I think especially some of the more sort of higher build actors, sort of, pretty much sued the production company and said, well, I didn't get paid for
Yeah,
a film and you released it as a film. So I think it was an interesting practice that was going on back then.
I actually heard something about that. talking to a friend of mine. She told me that actually, and she said I better look into it because I had no idea about that actually.
Yeah.
I knew they were shown, but like she told me she's actually seen something in France, and then um, we were talking. I think only about a couple of weeks ago, and she reminded me again, and she said that have you actually made any inquiries and like things, and have you kind of like asked because you might have
Hmm.
some kind of royalty in something. But
Yes.
I don't know. I'm currently actually I'm somebody's actually figuring out whether they want to represent me or they don't want to represent me. I mean, and I've got no great big demands of any sort, but
Hmm.
I'm kind of like there and good to go for the time
Hmm.
being,
Yeah. Yeah.
sort of thing, and
Yeah.
see what the hell happens.
Have you ever done any film conventions or like autograph conventions?
A while back, I mean, once or twice. I mean, like in but not really.
Hmm.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
I've never been good at an active fact in these sort of things. I mean, I just kind of like shy away, sort of thing.
They're quite. I've been to a few as obviously as a fan, and they're long days as an attendee, let alone
Uh-huh.
a celebrity. Meeting. I was obviously the fans are lovely, and it's a lot of times you end up with nice experiences, but it's still quite intense. So I understand why some people don't kind of sort of like that really. Um,
Yeah, but it's just amazing. I mean, some people are really, I mean, like it's it's a great feeling that actually people actually know you and remember you from something, which is
mm,
just wonderful, and it makes you feel good,
mm,
obviously. But you know, now it's the selling part. Everybody's trying to sell stuff. I mean, there's so many
mm,
people in this business just out of materialize out of the woodwork. They have nothing to do with on the creative side. They're just kind of like people who are like, I mean, they're assessing films, and everybody's got their own film festival. They got funding from somewhere,
mm,
some kind of some bureaucratic speak in some kind of minority set up this that and and they got this film festival going. They don't know a damn thing about films and acting and the craft of this business.
mm,
And but they're in it, and they're just gonna sell. I mean, just personalities kind of out there. And I
mm,
recently did. I just went out on kind of thing. I had a school here, sort of upmarket kind of a school called Bloomfield Hall Schools,
mm,
run by a dear old friend, long time ago, Angela Williams, and her husband, who's from here. And they wanted me on the panel discussion with somebody and about the future of cinema in this country. Now, I mean, like hello. So we're going to talk about things where you can't actually really talk about things. And so I had to actually ask this lady questions. I said, what the hell are we going to talk about? Because you can't talk about it. I mean,
mm,
so etc. And but you suddenly find out that they're like, a whole bunch of people, and you just research something, and they say, what do they do? They got where do they get the funding from, and on what basis?
mm,
They got nothing to do with the trade. They've not grown up in this business. They're not part of the business. I mean, if they were a journalist, if they're really engaged in some kind of film history and people and so on, and they had understand, they don't have that. It's just kind of, it's just catching the moment and trying to like, make their little, number things. So those kind of things like really piss me off. I
mm.
don't, but that's the way it is. I mean, it's just uh, interesting the way things are actually. developing. And I think the strike business has caused a lot of issues because what I feel that the thing that is stuff that has been put behind now, obviously 2.5 years hold up, and then everything is behind, and the narrative has changed drastically in the
Yeah.
meantime. A lot more has actually happened and is happening in the space, and it's very interesting. Whatever is going on is interesting because it's reality, um, but somehow it doesn't change the fact that keep thinking about that you actually come from you're part of an era which is at an end, so you're a survivor, and you have to actually, all those things are very valuable because like all that life, all those things, all those shows done at those times, I mean, everything is somewhere, is floating in the ether. I mean, it's just not gone away somehow, I keep thinking. It's just really there. And it's just like people like you who keep it alive. Thank you so much. And for your interest and your understanding and your kind of like, uh, um, whatever. I mean, you're a very valuable person in my humble opinion.
Oh, well, that's very kind. Likewise.
Yeah. And so I really appreciate that. I really think that it's just, you know,
I mean, why
that's it.
why do you think that I suppose we covered it to some extent, but 60 years on almost for your episodes, but there's still such an interest in these shows. Do you think we're interested in them because nothing's kind of topped it, or do you think it's just so well made that it's kind of timeless? Why we sort of still adore these shows?
I think that they're well, I think um, well made. They were really well made for the time. But I mean, if you look at them now, there's so because things are some people really like it's like buying really old things like neat antiques to put in your house like thing. It's like that
Mm.
also, but at the same time they were well made and well acted, directed at the time, and that they have sort of like a kind of sort of balance in them with the present day things are like very bit get over the top
Mhm.
a great deal, like grossly exaggerated, even small bits of action. But there's some kind of, obviously there's some sort of magic in it. I mean, otherwise they would not attract people.
Well, yes,
So,
we wouldn't be here if there wasn't some
yeah.
appeal.
Like
Yeah.
it's like the whole way of making these things. Like it's I feel that they if you a lot of people who are actually making stuff now, if they had to make a good job, like uh, they would not know how to do it without effects and screens.
Hmm. Yeah.
Really, that's the truth of it.
Hmm.
Because it's actors are very used to actually working, uh, acting to things which are just kind of like puppets and things, and somebody would actually make a dinosaur in front talking to them. But
Hmm.
it's just good actors and good technicians. They would do their job and stuff. But like the thing is, there's the actual makers. They somehow or the other they lack, I think, or will are lacking the craft, the skills.
Hmm.
you know, like the
Yeah.
old artisans, the technicians, the salt of the earth kind of people in any culture, and they don't they, because they don't learned it.
No, I think
People,
it's like model making, the old sort of sci-fi
yeah,
shows or Thunderbirds, etc. The craftsmen you used to have to, and that was, of course, it's all been replaced by CGI. So you've lost
yes,
a
yes, yes,
certain
yes, yes,
art form, haven't you?
yeah. It is no, so it does represent that kind of, time and period of where people had those skills,
Mm,
you see.
yeah.
Uh, and 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 um, uh, and that's kind of, you know not there anymore because those people have gone away,
Mm,
and some of the old people are working, and those who have worked with them will no doubt acquire some knowledge and will know those skills a little bit,
mm,
but the rest won't. I mean,
yeah.
then it's taken other shape somehow or the other.
Mm,
And these things may become, there might be, if we survive through this messy time,
mm,
might be a kind of like a golden period, a resurgence or some sort of thing, you know. And on a positive note, I hope that is the case.
mm,
And people actually like to actually appreciate uh, the craft and the skill of the work,
yes.
and as opposed to effects and the pacing that the effects demand. And
Mm.
um, so uh,
Hopefully that'll be the case. I think if you look at some of the films that have come out the last 12 months, Oppenheimer, Barbie, etc. They're not traditional films.
yeah,
Oppenheimer particularly is more of a, there's a lot of, it's very dialogue heavy. Bond films do all the stunts for real still. There's certainly I think, a movement to sort of
I
strip back some of this gloss that,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
perhaps is not healthy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've not seen Oppenheimer yet. It's not shown that, but I missed. Also, I wanted to see Napoleon. I missed that because
I've not seen that
I
one, but I
always,
have seen Oppenheimer, and I recommend that one. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I was just wondering. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking back to when you're working on TV around about this era. A lot of actors that I've talked to that have worked on, say, The Saint, The Avengers, they had to provide their own costumes. Was that something that you had to do for something like
No,
this?
no, 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 no.
No?
I never had to do that.
Hmm.
They always had something.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. For me, like,
Yeah.
they always had something. There was always. I think I never actually questioned why I was wearing this and why I was wearing that.
Hmm.
I mean, I just sort of there was nothing special. So I'm sure they were easy with if the actors had a preference.
Hmm.
And but yeah, I mean, like the jacket I wore in
Hmm.
this thing was fine. I mean, I tried it.
Yeah.
Costume people came and they said, "Do you like this or do you like that?" And I picked this one up. I think there were two or three I had to try. So I
Hmm.
thought that was it. Right.
Yes, but it's a very nice look, isn't it? I think
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
character quite
Yes,
well.
yes, yes,
But I know when
yes,
I've spoken to such
yes,
usually
yeah,
actresses I speak to, and they say that they had to provide
yeah,
a lot of their outfits,
yeah,
whatever they had in their wardrobe is what they wore on the shows. So that I thought that, but
yeah,
um,
yeah.
uh, so of your two saints, this one, the People Importers, which one do you prefer?
But
Oh, I was just going to say, either do you prefer this one or the People Importers in terms of perhaps the character and maybe the overall episode?
people importers.
People
I
Importers,
like
yeah.
that a lot because I enjoyed doing that a
Hmm.
bit, in spite of a little bit of scrap with Monty Berman, whatever he was called.
Oh,
This
was it Johnny Goodman, wasn't it? I think he
Johnny
had a
Goodman.
bit of
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it is, and because it was Ray was like great, and the Imogen of course, and had more interaction with Roger, and it was great fun.
Mm. Um,
And it was an interesting story. It was more,
mm.
you know, so I prefer that a great deal if I had a choice between these
Oh
two.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I just wondered because you were a regular in Emergency Ward 10. It was 33 episodes you did.
Mhm.
What was it like being in a show in a regular show like that compared to say doing guest spots?
Oh, it was great. Actually, it was great fun, and it was good. Um, and 2 shows a week was very good exercise. But playing the same character for I think it was almost 8 months,
Mm.
something like that, was getting a bit kind of thing. And but I enjoyed doing that because obviously we became good friends with John Carlyle and the whole lot of directors who used to come in for directing, and Peter Collinson, and also he made the Italian
Uh,
job
yes.
shortly.
What was Peter like as a director? Was
Peter
he?
was, very kind of like a flashy sort of a guy. It's like I'd met him a couple of times. He got very offended when I actually turned down a drink that he bought me, and he said, "Why?" Because I didn't want to drink too much. I mean, I had to drive back all the way from L Street to,
Mm.
Kensington,
Mm.
and so, but he was very kind of like a bit of a dandy sort of thing. He was just dressed like. I mean, he made this movie after I knew he would go into films, and then um, John Carlyle I'd be great friends with.
Mm.
He was a great guy, great actor, and Cecil Petty, of course, the producer, and so it was a very pleasant experience. I mean, it's a
Mm.
good time because
And
I mean, created a big opening for me actually to just
mm.
be actually known, and I had a good agent, and it just worked. I got lot of jobs, a lot of work
Mm.
out of that.
And what's your process when it comes to developing a character, especially one that has a long run? How do you kind of get the feel for the person, and do you sort of build them up in a certain way consciously?
Well, at the time there was there was um, for an Asian character there was a uh, he was like two things were Peter Sellers, and then there was a very successful production of A Passage to India, Frank Hauser, Oxford Playhouse, with the one of the principal characters in there. And
Mhm.
they all spoke like, "Hello, madam, how are you? What is it?" Da, 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 da. I said, "I'm not going to talk like that, for heaven's sake." So, and they said, "It's perfectly okay." So I said, "Is that cool?" And they said, "Fine." I said, "That's good." Because I mean, I was in no position to actually make demands of any sort.
But you
But
were
I
very
thought,
conscious of not
yeah, yeah,
becoming
yeah.
a
I thought, I mean,
stereotype. You didn't want,
that's nonsense because
yeah,
I'm not going to,
you
this is a
didn't want to
great,
be
you
you didn't want to be a stereotype or anything like that. You
yeah,
wanted,
yeah. I thought this
yeah.
is a very interesting character, and of course, I actually never had I never spent a whole lot of effort on trying to get into a character kind of thing.
Mm.
I've never done that. I mean, not that I'm just somehow great or something. It just kind of like happens, just like this. I mean, you just kind of like just go with the feel. I mean, and you just be a person, and it works.
Mm.
And sometimes someone says, I want a little more of that. I want a little less of that.
Mm.
And that's how it's been. So I know the actors. Like I did a show with Edward Fox one time, and it was a play of the month, and the lady was Rosemary Peach, I think. Yeah, and Edward Fox, and Edward and I got to know each other quite well, and we had a good relationship, and with everybody else, and the director, he drove the director down the bend. And I think nice guy is just trying to do this over and over again. And this going and that. And he said, what do you think? And I said, well, I don't know. I'm just sitting there, just watching you because it's every time you do it,
Mm.
it's the same. I mean, because it's you.
Mm.
How are you going to change yourself? How you go put yourself another face on your face and then do something with it? But each time you think it's different, it's not different.
Mm.
you know. And by the way, I'm very hungry. I want to go and have lunch. It's enough is enough. So I mean, when you're done,
Mm.
can we have a lunch break, please? That's the sort of experience I have with him. But so everybody laughed a bit.
Mm.
Uh, thank God. Because but I have never had that huge issue. I mean, I worked with so many directors and some good ones and some really assholes. And but I've never had really problems. And I enjoyed working with John Frankenheimer a great deal because he was a film director and we had a very good relationship. Uh, I had with John. I mean, he's very kind.
Mm.
And so I enjoyed working with him. I was going to work with him on another movie, but it was prepped for a long time, but it never worked out.
Mm.
And because The Horseman was a disaster for him,
Ah.
and it didn't work out. But I enjoyed working a great deal with people like Roy, who directed this Flight Plan,
Mm.
and always had a drink with them and so on. Talked about lots of things. And but I never had a problem trying to. I mean, your character will come to me. I mean, if I do a character, it'll just come to me and make sense, and I'll do it in a certain way. Somebody doesn't like it. It hasn't happened much. I mean, but the most I've had somebody come and say to me, "Can you kind of do a little bit more of this?" And I said, "Fine, okay. You want me to kind of get more angry or do or whatever, so that kind of thing. And
Mm.
there's some things, of course, I can do
Yeah.
better than other things, and I do understand that acting is the unspoken word because if you're doing screen job,
Mm.
then it's I feel the unspoken word is as important, if not more, than the spoken word,
Mm.
because it must register in your expression and so on. And so I just flow with that, and it makes a lot of difference with how with the other actor. And
Mm.
like if the other actors are good, then you obviously you rise because the feedback and the currents that are exchanged change the equation into an interesting dynamic kind of thing.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's what it's really
Um,
about. I mean, it's
mm.
uh,
Um,
and it's
you.
great.
Mm.
Yeah,
Oh, so I was going to say, you worked with Val Guest. What was he like as a director?
our guest was uh, boy, he was like one of those old time directors who made those movies and made sense with the kind of movies he made. Uh, like one of the movies that he did was I was an extra on that, and I because I just wanted to get inside his studio. I mean, I would just not go around the bend. The agent, and you have an agent. Are you a member of the union? No, 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 no. Okay, when you have a job, you know, we'll let you know, that kind of thing. And
Mm. Mm.
so I did that, and that was really an eye opener for me. It was great to actually watch the film being made.
Yeah. Uh,
Like that. I mean, um, but Valguest was kind of like a pretty hands-on director. I mean,
mm.
like old timer. He was those movies they used to make at the time. And it was like this movie was with Kirk Douglas and David Niven, where the spies are, I think.
Did you get to see David Niven and Kirk Douglas work? Was it
Yeah,
quite?
yeah, they were around. I mean, there were a lot of people. There
Yeah.
was a Rome airport and things
Mm.
like that. I mean, it's just
Mm.
like it's
Mm.
uh, that moved my career an inch forward quite a
Mm.
bit.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
anyway,
You we did mention last time Cry of the Penguins, but we didn't mention John Hurt. Did you have much to do with John
yeah,
on?
John and I we ended up being very good friends,
Mm.
and a sad episode had happened in his life. His wife had an accident and she died in a riding accident. That was definitely that's really and we had a uh, we I was trying to actually uh, mm, I write one of my first films I wanted to make, and then John was going to be in it, and so I would just read the screenplay to him and so on and so forth afterwards. But that film was reshot, by the way, because it was directed by somebody else initially,
Mm.
and it was some guy who was actually doing commercials in New York, and the film wouldn't cut, so Roy was brought in
Mm.
to actually reshoot the picture. So they didn't they reshot the film except for the Antarctic sequences,
Mm.
and that's how I got the job
Yeah.
because Roy did his own crew, and so this was I think when Brian Forbes was doing the Associated British Studio head for a while
Mm.
uh, during that period,
I don't think that's
and
something that they would do today because you hear of a lot of films at the moment that they've shot they don't like, and they might just literally put them in the storeroom and that's it. Nobody ever sees them, or they'll just release it and let it just completely, get hacked to pieces by critics and just die a death. But to actually take the trouble to rework it, it's you almost wish there was that kind of compassion to certain things these days.
yeah. So it must have cost an arm and a leg to reshoot an entire movie. I never got to understand that. I mean,
Yeah.
because I asked Roy one time, and he said, "Yeah, but it simply would not cut." He said, "I saw the rush
Mm.
several times, and there
Mm.
was because Roy started as an editor. Roy and John both, I think
Mm.
they started as film editors long time ago.
Yeah.
And Roy and John, they were very kind to me always. I mean, we had a good relationship.
Mm.
Uh, they were initially a bit edgy. They wanted to make sure that I would turn up on time and so on and so forth when they cast me. But after that was resolved, that was great. I had very, that was very, they were very good always. They were
Mm.
always a phone call away if I
Mm.
needed something or advice or wanted to see them for something. I'd shot something and it didn't work out because of finances and things. But right, John saw the movie and the rushes and some of the rough cut. And he said to me, fine. I mean, he said, you have all the facility I can give you for the editing is available for you at Shepperton because they owned it at the time. And that was phenomenal. I mean, and plus they gave me a British Lion Films letterhead that on completion they would distribute the movie. That was wonderful because, that helped me. But we had a big crisis on the financial side. It was a big, big disaster for me in that sense, because I'm not a businessman and I didn't have a proper producer and so on and so forth. And it just went on and ended up in a chaos. It was an interesting film. Uh, but it was I guess would have been one of the first early independents. There are a lot of problems with the union at the same time, because they just turned up on location, because we were shooting location. The whole film was shot on location, and nobody was shooting location. And like, even if the studio film went out on location, they took the big lights with them on location. So location ceased to look natural. And then, I mean, the subways and the underground, and the streets, like and there was none of that. And we did all of that on that. I mean, it's just like, putting a camera on the vans, moving along the pavement, and then just going into the railway stations, trains, and the whole bit. And but so they turned up and they said, you can't do this. I said, well, why? I mean, but like, why? The this my union card was supported by Jack Cardiff and sponsored by Jack Cardiff and Roy Bolton. I mean, you can't get better than that sort of thing. But, so I for directing, and I thought, well, isn't it? I mean, if a person, I mean, who decides that this person cannot make a feature and will actually work on only television films as an assistant, and a camera operator on TV, and he can't be a camera operator on a feature? That's nonsense.
Yeah.
And isn't it better to have people actually employed in some way, even if they're not getting a great big salary and huge overtime and whatnot? Isn't it better to have people actually working on a film and making some money and putting a product out in the market, as opposed to not doing it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And they didn't like that. The shop steward, I mean, like, they didn't like that one bit. And so I had a bit of a tangle with that. And then but anyway, it was a great experience, but it actually was a very sad experience at the same time, because it crashed. It crashed because I had actually the producer I wanted to work with was my old friend Lane from the United States. He just took all the time in the world to actually come from California to London to actually get into grips with that. But I is not a businessman, never was, I never am, and I just do not know how to actually put things together. But I know how to do this work.
Yeah. Did you encounter Joss Ackland?
I don't have a problem.
Did you encounter Joss Ackland
like,
on the film?
Huh?
Sorry. I was just going to say.
I'm sorry?
Did you encounter?
Your words are getting clipped.
Yeah. I think our
I'm sorry?
connection's a bit. Yeah, I think we're all right now. Did you encounter Joss Ackland at all on Cry of the Penguins?
Oh yeah, I worked with him on the my very first television show I did. He was in it.
Oh, right.
It was directed by Boris Hassan. It was Kipling stories. It was my first TV show ever, and it was like Joss Ackland and Barry Letts were the two main leads in the show. And it was the episode I think was called Mark the Beast. And I just I knew him from then. Yeah. Joss Ackland had a long run.
Yeah.
I guess he's still around. Oh, wonderful.
He died I think a year or so ago. I think he was 93. But I think he'd been in a care home for a couple of years prior to that, but I think he was still very sharp,
Okay.
mentally speaking. But he's just one of
Yeah.
those faces that appears in almost everything, you know. And
Okay.
did you say it was Wallace Hussein that directed that one that you did?
The,
Did you
the what?
say it was Wallace
I'm
Hussein?
sorry.
Did you say it was Wallace that directed that episode? Wallace Hussein? Was he a
Yeah.
director?
Yeah. But yeah, Boris did. I think then
Hmm.
um, I next time he also did that movie with Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, Divorce His and Divorce Hers, something like that.
I did an event with Wallace last year. He's still going strong. Yeah.
Really great.
Yeah.
Is he doing something?
He's I think he's pretty much retired now, but we talked about his Doctor Who days. He did a couple of
Oh
Doctor
yeah.
Who's, and
Okay.
so yeah, he's
Okay.
doing quite well. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
I did want to ask you about you did an episode of Adam Adamant Lives that was
Yes,
Gerald Harper, Juliet Harmer. Do you remember
yes,
that
yes.
one?
I remember that.
Hmm.
I remember that we were rehearsed that show in a church hall down King's Road at the tail end near Putney Bridge. Um, and with his Gerald Harper.
Gerald Harper, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Gerald Harper. Yeah, I remember Adam Adamant.
Hmm.
I yes, quite. It was I don't remember who directed it though, but I know was uh, Peter Wingard in it also. I
Oh
think
well. Hmm.
I did one show with him. I always thought it was Adam Adamant.
Hmm.
I I don't know. I don't remember, but I did a show with him. I on something. I don't know what it was.
I'll have a
But
little look. Juliet Harmer is still around, and I'm due to actually interview her later in the year if the stars align. So which actor
okay.
we were saying? Oh, Peter Wingard, weren't we? No, Peter wasn't in that episode.
Okay.
Kato Mara was, of course, quite a big name, Kato Mara, and it was
Uh-huh.
uh, Henry Safran who directed that one.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. That brings it up. Yeah, that's right.
So
Yes.
do you remember when you did work with Peter Wingard? Do you remember him at all?
Yeah, I remember him. But yeah, I remember. I can't for the life of me remember what show I did with him. I
Hmm.
mean, I do remember doing a show with him, or maybe it's just my imagination. I don't know,
Hmm.
but I did something with him. I remember, and we got to know each other a bit. But I mean, Peter's not my type kind of thing, but it's great fun. I
Hmm.
mean, he's a sort of a guy,
Hmm.
and good actor, very good actor, really.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yes, and um, um, then yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I that was a good character I think I had in that Adam Adamant.
Hmm.
Uh, he was a very good character. I enjoyed playing the character. I remember that.
Yeah.
And, it's yeah, yes, and one of the very good actors and people I liked a great deal as a person was Fulton Mackay, you
Oh
know,
yes. Hmm. Yeah.
you a great actor, like he was just a wonderful guy.
Hmm.
And I did a show with him. It was um, a very good character. I had a very good character, and he and Derek, what's his name? Derek, um, Derek, blonde
Not.
guy. He's done movies and things, a character actor, play nasty Germans and things like that. And I've forgotten his name. There's something going wrong. Yeah. And this was I don't remember what the show was called, but it was I think it was in a series. There was it was like these two guys were cops,
Mhm.
Fort and Derek, and so that was really so the great thing about it is you come across some fantastic actors and technicians in the course of this. That's just a wonderful kind of like experience in life. Is just to actually interact with and work with some amazing people, really.
Hmm.
And
I,
yeah,
I was going to mention the blood of Hussein. I don't know if that was because obviously that was a
yeah,
starting role for you. Was that good a good experience?
yeah. That was a good experience, but like um, it good experience. Like the characters were good. I just played the two guys, the two brothers, and it worked out. Just but there were a lot of issues in the movie because of the no not issues with the film, but the actual uh, um, uh, the authorities in this country. It never got released here, and but yeah, I enjoyed doing that film quite a bit. That
Hmm.
was a great experience, though.
Oh, good.
Uh, yes.
Um, one of the
Uh,
films I wanted to mention, Britannia Hospital. Does that have any memories for you? Lindsay
Tanya with
Anderson.
Leslie
Lindsay Anderson
Lindsay
direct.
Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember. Yeah, I did. But I remember meeting Lindsay for the interview, and it said that it's. Uh, he said it's a bit disrespectful that I'm offering you this part. I said, I'm sorry, I don't get it. Why is that deliberate? He said, no, because I want you because that's the only thing I have available.
Ah, right.
But would you do it? And I said, I'd love to because that'll be fine. That's the memory I have. The rest is doing that in a studio, which was
Hmm.
run by, first studio I see, which was run by Sparks, actually,
Oh,
Lee
yeah.
Brothers.
Hmm.
And so it was a very strange atmosphere to be in a studio that was actually uh, run by gaffers and electricians.
Hmm.
They
Oh,
owned the
interesting.
studio. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Hmm.
other than that, I haven't seen the film. I don't, it was not one of his best, maybe. I don't know.
It's sort of
Uh,
part of a loose trilogy, isn't it, that Malcolm McDowell did that started
yeah,
with If, and I think that's the
yeah,
third film. So it's not obviously I think it's probably not as well known as the other two. I don't think.
yeah.
Um, the Brides of Fu Manchu interests me because that's directed by Don Sharp, another well-known director
Don
of
Sharp is
yeah.
a
Hmm,
great guy, wonderful director. And so I enjoyed doing that film a great deal.
hmm,
You know.
hmm.
And Hammer Studio was very interesting location to go to every day for work. It was a bit spooky to look at driving there in November time at Bray. And,
Right. Yeah.
so yeah. So I liked that quite a bit, and I enjoyed it. Great fun doing that.
Did you
And
meet Christopher Lee on that one?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He was very unapproachable kind of thing, like was just sort of like not very kind of friendly person,
Ah,
um,
yeah. It's
and was scared and so on. But fine, I mean, because I enjoyed
I always thought of
being with the bride.
hmm. I always thought of Christopher Lee as being quite an opposing character. First of all, he's so tall, and I did
Yeah,
meet him.
yeah, yeah. I was actually, I didn't realize he was as tall as he was. Actually,
Mm,
I didn't know he was that tall.
yeah.
He was very tall. Actually, that was a bit
Mm,
kind of like, but on film, always he never looked that tall. But I mean,
no.
he was really quite tall.
Oh
So
yeah.
how
Yeah.
and it's very imposing and stuff. I mean, he suddenly, I mean, I was coming out of the dressing room, and he suddenly emerged from the corner, which was like a bit of a shocker, and just went by in his Fu Manchu costume.
Mm,
And I thought, wow, man, I mean, this guy is really like, like an apparition of some sort. I mean,
mm,
and but the general experience of working on the movie was very good.
good.
I had a good time doing that thing.
Mhm,
And there was all these Harry Allen Towers, the producer. He had all these young ladies who'd done he ran some sort of beauty contest across some European countries to actually do the winners. Then he cast them as the brides of Fu Manchu.
mm,
And they were all very interesting ladies. I mean, just very enjoying having fun. And Rupert Davis, I got to know, and really liked working with Don. He was this great guy, you
mm,
know,
mm.
and very good director. I thought action director. I mean,
Yeah.
like yes.
Oh, good, good, wonderful. You had a recurring role in the series Crossroads. Was that quite an interesting
Oh
show
yeah,
to do?
yeah, yeah. I did a few months of that. I don't 6 months, maybe 6 months,
Hmm.
6 whole months. I mean, they were I think they were about like three shows a week.
I think it was shot very quickly. Yes,
Yes,
so
yes, yes.
it was a bit like working in the theatre in
Yeah,
terms of that kind of sort of
yeah, yeah,
turnaround. And yeah.
yeah. I used to, I had to go to Birmingham to do that, and I
Hmm.
used to actually uh, spend a lot of time in Stratford
Hmm.
because I used to drive there every evening almost.
Yeah.
Go to the Dirty Dock and meet friends who were working there in the theater.
Hmm.
And
Uh, yeah.
yeah, Crossroads, and
Hmm.
it was whoa, uh, that was interesting, you know, and. I think I maybe I remember seeing maybe one show. I've never seen any of those. I've never seen those.
Hmm.
I've seen one show, Crossroads, and the rest I have never seen. But
I think a lot of them might not exist anymore from certain periods of the show,
yeah,
possibly.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
uh,
With the Sue, what was her name? Sue. Um, she was fabulous, and I just were friends with him and her boyfriend. That was
mhm.
great. Generally, people were good. It makes a lot of difference, when the people there and all are other actors. Noel Gordon was a very friendly person, lady,
Yeah.
and very settled, very nice person. And the guy who played the chef was uh, friendly, okay, but Sue was very good and a great friend.
That was
Uh,
Sue Nichols. Sue
Sue
Nichols.
Nick, yeah, 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 yeah. Good actress. I mean, Um, um, and then I don't know what happened to her. She had just kind of like, just disappeared after Crossroads. I don't know how long she was in Crossroads. Crossroads went on for quite a while. It
It
was a
did, didn't
never-ending.
it? Oh, she was in just having a look on her profile, and she did 4 years, but she did 572 episodes. So that's quite something, isn't it? Uh, but she did do 3,300 episodes of Coronation Street. So that's a lot, isn't it? So
Wow.
and she's still with us, which is good. Um, but I take it most actors would be driven insane by having a role for that long, I guess.
I, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, yeah,
You
yeah. I
just
think
kind of went
you just
away.
froze. I was going to say that I suppose a lot of actors wouldn't like to do a huge long run like 10 years or 5 years, because surely the point of an actor is to try lots of different things. So you always
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
mix
yeah,
it
yeah,
up,
yeah.
don't you? Yeah, yeah.
Yes, 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 yes.
Mm.
But it was like, you know, but I got to know some very interesting people on Crossroads.
Mm.
But they've been doing now. I'm a bit kind of like, something is happening in my head. I'm just uh, not remembering entire names altogether. Barry, what's his name? He had made movies before, and then he was doing Crossroads, and and they were kind of, it's like going to a job, like, like it's not like
Mm.
it's like going to like and working in some kind of office, like, every day you go there to do like, like what the accountants are doing, like, boom, 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 like,
Mm.
it's a bit, but mm, a few months is just the max, I think. I mean,
Yeah,
like, it's like, um, yeah, but then, yeah, Sue Nichols was, I actually to see her after the show. I met her a couple of times.
hmm,
She lived in my neighborhood in London,
mm.
and I had to bump into her in the grocery store once or twice. And um, I really liked her quite a lot. I mean, it's a fun lady.
Yeah.
And yeah, 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 yeah. And Don, I remember, kept saying to me he wanted me for another film, and that never happened. I don't know. Then I went somewhere away, and I think I went to the U.S. Something happened, and then it just never happened.
Mm.
You know.
Did,
So,
um, you having worked in a number of countries, obviously certain things would be the same in terms of um, approach to work, but is it very different working in Pakistan, the UK, America? Is there an individual feel to every place?
oh, very different. Yeah, yeah, yes, very different.
Mm.
Working in in uh, I mean, Pakistan is another planet altogether. I mean, it's just totally out of sync with the rest of the thing. I'm in a very difficult situation in here because I'm kind of like, a product of another system who's actually working in a system that actually I cannot function in. So it's very difficult. It's very
Mm.
complicated. It's just, it's very bizarre to be an alien in a place where you're supposed to be originated from. Like, it's just so very, very, very weird experience.
Yeah.
That aside, then I worked in Spain, and it's entirely different. It's very good with Italian crews and French crews and things, and the British crews are great to work with. American crews are very different because, like, different sort of regulations and union things, and what time to have a break and how to do, the good things and pluses and minuses on both things. But it's the diversity makes it interesting, So, like.
Mm.
Different experiences are very used. I've not worked in France. I almost did. Yeah, my very first film was a French film.
Mm.
Very first film in my life I did was a French movie, and it was a short film. And I think it was Claude Lelouch was one of the producers, I think, and was wrote the thing, and the director was Jean-Claude C. And so they shot it here, actually, in Lahore. I mean, this was 1962, I think.
Mm.
And they called me first as an assistant because I was actually just going to college and planning on leaving. And then there was rehearsing my first show that I directed at the Arts Council in the city. It was a great difficulty. I got that show because they thought I was not old enough to actually direct this. It was a shortened version of A Midsummer Night's Dream. And so they, Zia Mohyeddin had cast me in, who did Passage to India, was big success in England with Oxford Playhouse and various other things. And he cast me in his production of Julius Caesar, which had multinational characters in it, and, actors.
Mhm.
And he gave me Antony's part, and I played that character, and it was a huge, big success. This French company was there; they watched it, and they screen tested me for the thing, and they gave me the lead in the movie. That's the first film I've done. I've never seen that movie, but that was a very interesting experience working with a French group because I didn't speak French at the time, and I couldn't understand a word they were saying. So I got to actually know the language a little bit because of the associate producer, Yannick, who was just a wonderful woman. And so that was admittedly that was being done here. Then I seen their production. I went there on a visit when I was working in Spain. And it's very different. I mean, I like that diversity. I mean, it's great. It's very interesting to work with different crews.
Mm.
But at the same time, like if you have, um, uh, but your principals have to be the kind of people that you actually rely on more. So, i.e., the cinematographer or the whoever is going to be that, or your first AD or your core team. They have to be the people that you actually grown up with or actually done other work with. I mean, that makes a lot of difference.
Mm.
Because working on a film or a theater show actually requires, if you're quoting main people, there is understanding. I mean, they do understand, so you don't have to explain a great deal because they know what's in your mind and how you want to reflect things and how you want to change things, how you want to proceed. And their best comes out as time goes on, and it becomes best and best and best.
Mm.
You know, and it's difficult then to because it's like but a lot of other people, it's nice to have crisscross people there and different technicians speaking different languages and so on,
Mm.
and doing stuff because everybody brings something interesting to the thing. It's always interesting to have designers and things like that from different diverse backgrounds because they always bring a very interesting element with them, and cinematographers, actors, of course, you know, and uh, are uh, play a very, it's very interesting to actually um, have different. I mean, these days, I mean, there's some remarkable actors all over the world. I mean, it's just quite phenomenal.
Mm.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah.
it's just very encouraging and it's exciting to actually see that sort of.
Mm.
And anyway, so like,
The last project I wanted to specifically ask you about was you did an episode of Jewel in the Crown, 1984. Was
yeah,
that good?
yeah, that was good. That was good. Uh, Jim O'Brien, who directed the show, we started, I mean, like pretty much working. I think it was the second third job that I had and he had. I was our first or second, third job at the same time years ago.
Hmm.
That was a theater show on Merchant of Venice. We were working. I was playing a character, and I was also working backstage.
Mhm.
And Tim was working backstage, and we got to know each other at that time. That was at the Unity Theatre,
Mhm.
a very nice old theatre. I hope it's still there in King's Cross, St. Pancras. Beautiful theatre, actually, small
Mhm.
theatre. And I hope it's not been turned into a bingo hall or something like that. So like, it's what they've done with most of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like yeah, and yeah, that was good during the crowd. That was uh, like I was actually the casting director and the producer. I think it was Christopher Morahan, and the casting lady was pushing me for another job on the show. But I was quite happy to do that. It was a great part and character, and that was fine.
Hmm.
But you know, and what I had one was yeah, that was good.
Did you encounter Tim Pigott-Smith on that one?
Yeah, yeah. I actually yes, yes. We had a scene together, pretty much, but not much. But like, and then almost lunchtime, pretty much most days and things like that, and so on. Met with him, and yeah, yeah.
Because he was someone that I wanted to see on stage. He did um, King Charles third, I think it was. That was, and but the day I had tickets for it, his understudy did it because he wasn't well, and of course, sadly, Tim died about a year or two after that, and he didn't do any other stage work. So it's one of those great actors that I didn't quite get to see.
Tim passed away.
Yeah, yeah, and Tim Pigott-Smith died of a couple of years ago. It wasn't that old. I think it was unexpected. Um, he was only 70. Just having a look now, and
Oh,
he had a heart attack.
good
Uh,
God. Okay.
in 2017 that was.
Hmm.
He was about to start a tour of Death for Salesman, and it was going to come down to we were going to tour the UK, and it was going to come down to Exeter, which is where I'm based. But of course, he passed away before he began the tour. So I'm sorry.
You minded a lot. If you give me a couple of minutes,
Mhm. Oh
I
yeah,
need to. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Please do. Yeah, no problem.
Huh?
I'm just going to say for the audience that
Ah,
won tonight, there will be another event this Friday that I'll be doing with Annette Andre for the episode "The Saint Steps In." So that will be advertised on Facebook shortly. So if you want to join, it's going to be this Friday, the 22nd, 7:30. Just to give you guys a bit of heads up on that one. Should be a lot of fun, that one. If anybody's got any questions for Salomon they'd like me to ask him, I've just got 3 questions left that I've got, and then I will let him go. So if there's anything you guys would like to ask him, then please do put it in the chat, because hopefully we're wrapping up in about 10 minutes time. And for those of you that haven't seen it, the other episode I did with him, the People in Porters, is on my YouTube channel. So that's sort of a nice little part one to to this?
An awful thing to do, but I simply couldn't hold it any
Oh,
longer.
no problem at all. No problem at all. So my third to last question, I just want to know, you as you mentioned working with Leonard Rossiter, I just wanted to know a bit more about Leonard, whether you liked him as was he a fun person to be around?
No, but Leonard, I was very lucky to have been friends with many of the people that I worked with afterwards and so on. And Leonard was one of them, you
Hmm,
see. So we had a good kind of like a, connection and things.
hmm,
And went to see him in some of his shows. Um, he was in a show in the theater with Leo McKern, some famous play, I forget the name, Italian author. Um, uh, yeah, Leonard was a very interesting guy.
hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, another person
Yeah.
that died obviously
Very
fair
good actor.
far too young. Yeah,
Good
great.
actor.
And always delivered his dialogue very fast. I know
Yes, 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 yeah, 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 yeah.
when they wrote Rising Damp for him, the scripts were double the length, not
Yes.
because the show was longer, but because he would get through it so quickly. They had to write extra pages for him.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, I
Okay.
wanted to in your early part of your career, you're credited your surname is credited differently. I wanted to know why that was.
Yeah, that was a bit of a serious mess up in many ways. In actual fact, now my dad, for instance, the playwright, he's very underrated underrated in a sense, but there's no Wikipedia, etc., on him yet. But he was one of the great playwrights of this part of the world. I mean, the whole of India. I mean, he's the kind of one of the people who actually uh, brought about modern drama in India, which was quite extraordinary in languages like Punjabi, Sanskrit, Urdu. I mean, he spoke several languages. I mean, his principal language. I mean, his it's and all the experience that he had in sort of theater, working in places like with Reinhardt over the years, and with being in the period and time, Weimar, Metropolis, those kind of Bladenberg studios and so. So he was able to translate that into sort of extraordinary drama, and then his name, the family name is Peer, for instance, Peer, Peer, and so the son of Peer would be Peerzada, basically. So what had happened was that when I arrived here back here, I mean, I was working at Salmaan Peer, and my brothers and family companies had started because they're all in the same business, and they'd started using Peerzada, sort of thing, and a lot of people started kind of addressing me as Mr. Peerzada in newsprints and here in interview and so on and so forth. And so, okay, that was sort of family name, kind of like, a sort of like, thing. But my name was, and then what happened was that when I did Blood of Hussein was probably the only film I did that I did not really actually have a contract with Jamil Delvi. and which was a bit of a mistake in actual fact, but that's fine. Now, when it started using me as Peerzada, in that I was billed as Peerzada in that, and then I don't know, it's a bit of a mess up. It kind of like, sort of, I always felt that it actually cracked my going career in some way because your name is very important.
Yeah, yeah,
you know, it's just halfway through my life, I'm going to alter it again. I mean, I don't, but it's like, yeah,
yeah.
bit of a mess up.
Hmm.
Uh,
And my final question is: do you have a favorite project of your career, stage, TV, or film, and why is that your most treasured?
yeah, there is. I mean, then it's actually a couple right now, and it's just that the what can I say? It's um, the, the most favorite project is Shahrazad, the 1001 Nights thing that I've worked on it for a very long time, and now I just need to actually have the resources to be able to make it.
Hmm.
And it's uh, my story about who this woman was actually, who is who was Sherazad,
Hmm.
the storyteller of 1001 Nights, because she's known as a fictitious character,
Hmm.
and but was there a person? So I created this character as a real person, and it's got a very interesting background and how it happens, and it just that's one of my favorite projects. But that I maybe would not have stayed here that long if I didn't have these two projects that I wanted to actually make because it requires this location. It's a very fascinating location, and the one is a present day project. It's to do with media and uh, um, so that's it. I mean, like it's just not very. It's double time difficult to
Hmm.
make the kind of film that I would like to make at this point in because that's the way it is. But I mean, you have to keep figuring out ways and means of how actually you can actually do maximum for less stuff. One of the advantages is the equipment has changed. So
Hmm.
that's a big advantage of the 35. I mean, I shot, I made a film, uh, mm, uh, big movie that was cost me. Uh, I mean, it was the film is finished and released, but it's stopped from release here. It's just banned. Two films that I've done as director writer and finished are banned here, and I was just taken to court and et cetera, various other things. Now I'm it's not very presently it's very dangerous for people like me to be here. Though the present circumstances is just weird. I
Hmm.
just want to don't want to go into detail
Yeah.
because it's truly can be very nasty. And the thing was that I've been away so long, and I just wanted to actually when I came back to make this movie, which is called Zargul, which is the name of the character. Zar means gold, and Gul means rose, golden rose. This is part of the Pashtun background, the tribal area, the Afghan Pashtun background, and the rebel guy is a truck driver rebel. It's a big movie, and I photographed that film also and operated the camera also because that was my interest all my life. It was just really a tough call, but I loved it. I mean, writing, directing, photographing, and operating. I'm 35. It's not easy. But um, um, and the thing is that it was a film. Both my films are actually, as time has gone on, they've become more relevant and consequently more dangerous. So the uh, and that has not actually led me to make other movies. Now, maybe if I had been somewhere else, maybe doing this, I would have made maybe a couple more films,
Mm.
and that's what I want to do, and act, of course, but so I effectively somehow or the other through circumstance and my stupidity and kind of like, just actually saying, okay, you can do this, you can do this is a virgin territory, you can have a good experience and so on. So, but like, kind of put myself in a sort of a tangle in the business, which has cost me personally a lot. No, the money is a secondary situation, but it's the actual work.
Mm.
It's is what actually fascinates me. I mean, we always uh, have some kind of money, but that's not the main thing. The main thing is what kind of work are you have you been doing as an actor, as a director, as a writer, and that's the fascinating part of it.
Mm.
So being cut off from that is a very difficult experience for me because as time goes on, I should be like, I'm originally from this part of the world, so to speak. But, I grew up at a different time in this part of the world. Even my inputs were very different
Mm.
uh, from other people, even my cousins and family and things like that, because my father and his background was very different. So consequently, I was brought up in a different way altogether. And um, two grandmothers, one English, one Pashtun. It's very weird combination. And it's and the I do have in-depth cultural understanding and the in the difference and the nuances, and I appreciate them, and it works magic for me as an artist, for instance, because it gives you more uh, 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 depth as a person, because you're not one-dimensional, and so there's a whole. So I'd like to be able to be able to use that and to a some kind of effective, there's nothing better than cinema and for a lesser audience, but more powerful also is theater. But like, and not being able to actually use that thing because like in practice, because my methodology and operation and the way I'm actually reared professionally in working kind of setup is not of this land. Do you
Mm.
follow what I'm saying? I
I
mean,
do, yes, I do.
that is a very big complication.
Mm.
People think different.
Yeah.
And I know that, but I mean, that is it creates problems.
Mm.
And you're not in sync. So on the one hand, I feel that I have a lot of advantages as a creative person of being understanding diversity and cultural differences and blending them in an interesting way and creating some sort of magic out of that. But on the other hand, it's complete kind of like, lack of communication, and suddenly, lack of understanding, that's it. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I go get worked up when I actually get to down to there, because I start thinking about the time spent. So many years have gone wasted, but they're not gone wasted, because I always work. I'm doing this, whatever I'm doing. I'm finishing a feature-length drama documentary. It's the last kind of stage for sitting there for the last few months. I've not been able to actually edit something, which actually takes maybe no more than a week. Because the producer was my younger brother and he died. So, I just kind of like, keep, it's the whole thing is done almost. It's an interesting statement, but by the time it's finished and out, it's going to cause complications for me. I know that. Because it's called the Golden Calf, the mystics here.
Yeah.
It's to do with the religious rituals and the Sufi practices, the way they're done in this part of the world, sort of thing. And but the thing is this, that that's it. I mean, see what happens. Just daily working at actually putting things together, and there's no shortage of actually effort and a lot of energy engaged in that, whether I'm sitting at home and writing or planning things and doing, or I'm working on my graphic novel, which has taken quite a bit of time. And but the writing part is finished, and now the sketches, some of the sketches remain, and so it'll be done. It should have been done a year ago, but being a one-person show, in a place which requires technology facility, like 2 or 3 people, you have to then give it time, extra time, and that's it. I don't know what else. I mean, I just kind of like, miss England a lot, a great deal more than America.
Yeah.
And although I had a good time in America, I drove through the entire country 3 times up and down, maybe 4 times, I think. Photographed a lot, and it was great. So that's it. I mean, this be able to. It's nice to be able to actually. I'm always. I mean, I'm not a believer in self-censorship. I just don't do that. But I, always end up saying something which actually becomes a problem for me afterwards. I don't want to cross that. Try my best not to cross that line. There's all kinds of snoops waiting to actually pounce on you for no goddamn reason other than.
Well, I think even in the UK, I think it is getting more difficult to you got to be more careful even over here with certain ideas and things, and what is politically correct almost seems to change weekly. So I think it's a worldwide problem, but certainly more restrictions where you are, certainly, but it's a difficult really to know how to operate, I think, sometimes. And
yes. I'm sorry to hear about Tim Bigger-Smith. It was a bit of a shocker. I thought it was
it was I mean, it's one of those actors that you always want to sort of see on stage, and
yes
and I wasn't able.
It was very good,
It's big shock at the time, I think, for everybody really. But, I wish you all the best of your projects, and I very much hope that you get over to the UK. And if you do, try and come and see you on.
That'd be wonderful. That'd be great.
That'd be lovely. And thank you for a lovely chat. It's been delightful.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So, and yeah, all the best. Have a lovely rest of the month, and hope all goes well for you.
Okay.
Yeah, take care.
Good one. All right.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.